has ever said that he is just a pure goal scorer. Obviously a couple of years ago he had 33 goals, but you look at even the way that he does that, it's based off pure speed. So, hey, on one other subject that I did want to bring up that I should have probably done earlier is I've talked to Matt Zuccarello a lot since the last podcast, and he heard the question that somebody asked about him wanting to be out, leaving Minnesota, and he just wanted to make it extremely clear that that is absolute BS and that he doesn't know who this person is that's tweeting all this stuff with inside knowledge of him, but it's absolutely a fabrication. He says that he wants to leave, that he loves it in Minnesota. He just wants to play better, and he knows that he's gotten off to a slow start and he wants to play better, but he loves Minnesota. He loves his teammates, loves everything off the ice, and he does not want anybody out there believing that he regrets signing here.
Got it. I'm glad you brought that up.
And you know what? I should have probably nixed it right there rather than even entertaining a question from an anonymous Twitter person creating rumors.
Right. Okay. From Dan Waldron, how does Russo's health and stress level in a season like this one compare to when the team is winning?
Well, it's just exhausting being negative. I can tell you. I mean, people think that that negative sells and losing sells. Trust me, it doesn't. It's just not fun being around the rink every day. As I mentioned, you're putting out some fire that you didn't even know you started or whatever. And so, point being the Zuccarello thing. So, so it's just it's just a lot tougher just being around a team. It affects. Any tweet you put out is met with just the most insane cynicism out there. You could just put line combinations and things you get returned are just sometimes borderline, negative, cynical, irrational, and it just puts you in a mood where you're constantly thinking about the team. And it's just tough in today's day and age to unwind, because I think everybody knows that on the road, I'm constantly working and looking on my phone and talking to people, and it just when you can't ever not think about the Wild, it makes for an exhausting lifestyle. And that obviously, as we've discussed many times, we don't root for the team that we're covering, but when you show up every single day and you got 10 different people pissed with you over something you've either said or written, it makes for a very stressful being.
Yeah, and we don't root for the teams we cover, but we both got into the business to cover great players and good teams. That's the most enjoyable aspect. And it's also much more fun. As you said, it's just automatically a more fun atmosphere to walk into every day. And the idea that negative sells is just factually incorrect. I know from our newspaper, when winning teams sell the newspaper, negative headlines do not sell newspapers. They do not. Maybe you get a few clicks, but believe me, clicks aren't that valuable. They just aren't. And if you put out something negative hoping that's going to get you clicks, well, if you continue to do that, you're actually going to chase people away in the long run, even if you get clicks one day. So it's just not a strategy. It's not the way anything works.
Yep, exactly.
From Sauced Penguin 91, with Patterson returning soon and Susie playing well, do you think we could see Hunt playing forward at times this year?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so, especially because they have extra forwards right now. I mean, obviously, a lot's going to depend on injuries. The Hunt did play forward a couple times last year and looked pretty good. But to me, Patterson's going to be the odd guy out to start. There are going to be times when, obviously, you're going to have to play him, especially maybe against bigger teams that you want that grit. And remember, Patterson played well at times last year, and I thought fit in nicely on this team. But to me, the Susie Hunt thing's hard to break up right now, and Patterson's going to still have to just be patient, and it's going to make it even tougher for Sealer to get in the lineup. If Sealer continues to be a scratch, at some point he might want to accept kind of a 2-week conditioning stint in Iowa. But I never get stressed with stuff like this because remember, there's always injuries. One day you think that, oh my God, what are they going to do when Patterson comes out? They have too many defensemen, and a week later, you're going to have 2 guys hurt, and then you're going to be wondering why the heck they traded a defenseman away. To me, as much I know as Bruce doesn't like a lot of times having 8 defensemen, I think Billy Guerin, when Patterson's healthy, is just going to have to be patient and let this play out, and keep 8D on the roster because obviously Sealer can't be sent to the minors without waivers.
We're going to do a few more Twitter questions. If you send in Twitter questions, you're just not getting it asked. Just keep trying. It's fairly random how I pick the Twitter questions to ask. And we, of course, would also love to see.
Yep, and I see a bunch. If you want me, that I don't mind addressing, so I can also just quickly skim through when we're maybe the final thought is me going through those Twitter ones that you haven't asked.
Sure. Okay, we'll do that. Reminder: check out the Stenstrom Trunk Show this weekend, November 1st and 2nd at Twill in the Edina Galleria. Again, low pressure but great quality stuff. And go in there. Whatever you buy is going to last you the rest of your life, at least if you're as old as I am. Remember, November 13th and 20th at Tin Shed in Savage. Stop by at 7 o'clock is the show time, and we just love seeing people there. It's always a blast. Thanks to fixologyrepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent who works out of Champlin, and Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, promo code TalkNorth. The next Twitter question I had was from KC, wondering if you have heard anything from Craig Leopold regarding the sold-out streak coming to an end and the overall attendance this year.
No, I haven't. But again, I think I mentioned on the last podcast or somewhere that it's not like this is a surprise to the Wild. I mean, they knew this was coming. This is one big reason why they hired Mike Modano. This is one big reason why they've tried to do things to enthuse the crowds again. When it comes down to it, the Wild fans just have to see a bright future. And right now, I don't think they see that. They see a team that is sort of on the downslope here. And maybe if they if this is the type of thing that actually will get Craig to say, hey, Billy, if you want to trade that guy, if it helps us become better by getting top draft picks, whatever, be my guest, run the team the way that you want, rather than the always sort of, spinning its wheels by being in a win now mode where they don't get top draft picks. And then they also don't get players that could fit in right away and lead this team to a cup.
From Dusty SJU, let's talk about Nick Seeler's disappearing act. Is that an appropriate characterization?
Well, I mean, look, I don't think this has to do with Nick. I think it has to do with Carson Soucy playing really well, especially the last 3 or 4 games. I thought his one game this season that he struggled was in Toronto, and he didn't play the next night. And unfortunately for Seeler, it's the circumstance. Seeler comes into the game that they lose 4-0. So you're probably making the change to go back to Soucy, and then Soucy's really taken it from there and played well. So it's tough for Seeler. He's a mature kid. I know this is tough on him. What makes it tougher is then he sits, and then all of a sudden he's put in there and expected to perform, but he hasn't played in a long time, and he's rusty. And I think we saw that in the Montreal game. If you remember, it was the penalty by Seeler that he put the puck in the stands that set that game into a bad path, where all of a sudden the Wild gave up 3 goals in an X amount of minutes because of the 5-on-3 that was started with the Seeler penalty. That, by the way, the Seeler penalty happened because Eriksson Ek, an inch from the blue line, couldn't get the puck out. So, Seeler's in a tough position, but he had a heart-to-heart with Boudreau yesterday, and is just going to have to continue to be patient and mature about it, which I know that he will be.
I have 2 more questions, and if you have any others you want to get to, I'll let you fire away on those. From Russo Slacks, or just now apostrophe Slacks, just how awkward do you make the elevator rides at the Tria rink for the players and coaches?
I don't make it awkward at all. It's the other people. It's the Dan Myers in the world that go in there and just don't stop talking while we're in there. Like, to me, I don't want to be seen when I'm in the players, and Dan's just his typical loud self. Why is it just apostrophe Slacks now?
Apparently he's trying to disassociate himself from you because, you haven't done enough for his career.
I got you.
From Wild Guy 91, a couple people asked this one. Are any truth to the rumors that Fiala, Ek, and Donato are on the trading block?
No. I mean, it's funny that was asked. I mean, it's like I go from you had him as an editor. I think Brian White.
Say that again?
White. Did you have Brian White as an editor once, or he was just a colleague?
No, just a friend of mine, because he was the columnist in the Fort Myers paper when I was covering the Twins down there. We used to hang out a bit.
Okay, so Brian White was my editor at the Sun Sentinel, and he once told me, he goes, our jobs is not to refute rumors if they're not true. But that was pre-Twitter and pre-aggregation, where an innocuous line in an article is turned into headlines by people that have nothing to do. So they turn into an innocuous line that Bruce Garrick really did not write becomes Donato, Fiala, Eck put out there on the trading block. And Billy Guerin says it's absolutely not true. He goes, when I have trade conversations with every GM, every name's brought up. It doesn't mean you're shopping them. So if somebody comes out and says, hey, what's going on with Fiala? He's scratched every night. What's going on with Donato? What's going on with Parisi? What's going on with this guy, that guy? It doesn't mean they're on the trading block. It just means you're having a conversation where names are brought up. But he made it extremely clear that while he's listening on everything and talking like any GM should, he has not made Donato, Fiala, and Eriksson on the block. I think a lot of times what writers do is you look at a team. I do it too. And you say, all right, if Minnesota is a trade partner with the Ottawa Senators, who potentially could be moved? Well, we know Ottawa doesn't want Parisi, Suter, Stahl, Koivu. They want young forwards. Well, they look at the Wild and say, well, they're probably not trading Greenway. They're probably not trading Cunnin. Who's kind of in the doghouse right now? It's Fiala, Donato, and Eriksson Ek or whatever. And that's how this stuff just is thrown into a story that becomes gospel. And sometimes I'm just amazed. Maybe it's because I'm too close to it, but I'm amazed that fans buy into this stuff. Like, to me, that's obvious. You don't need to be a sports writer to realize that if anybody is going to be traded from the Wild, it's going to be those young kids, most likely, if you're going to have to trade the thing, because if you're going to have to start eating into the core here. So again, Billy's like, look, I'm not saying I'm not trading anybody on this team, but it's not like I'm going around saying these three are available. So, right. And I think that's accurate. Trust me, if the Wild could trade Donato or Fiala and think they could get better right now, they absolutely would. 100%. But that's where Bruce is coming from when he writes that in there. It's more just sort of intelligence from a hockey writer point of view, rather than knowing for a fact that those three players were offered to the Ottawa Senators.
Right. Again, thank you to Brandon Morton, our longtime producer, and follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Any other tweets you want to get to today, Mike?
Benjamin Hurdle, I've started to hear this a lot. Will the Wild regret not drafting a pure goal scorer like Caulfield, over Boldy? Way too early to be seen. Look, we all when the Wild didn't take Caulfield, it's not like PJ Fenn and Yapik didn't realize that Caulfield was going to have a great career and be a goal scorer eventually in the NHL. They just felt over time that Boldy is the type of player that they want in their lineup. So we'll see. Maybe they'll regret it. Maybe they're not. Obviously, Caulfield's got into an unbelievable start with the Badgers. He's a pure goal scorer in a lot of ways, what the Wild need, but they felt that Boldy at the time, I think we got to let this one mature. Brett Marshall asks, though I'm a big fan of the ZZ top line, which he's dubbed us Zucker, Stahl, and Zuccarello. It seems Greenway and Stahl had some nice chemistry for one period, I would say. Do you think Greenway will be back up with Stahl once he's back to 100%? Look, this is not easy putting these lines together right now, because if you put Cunnin back to center, all of a sudden then Eriksson Ek, who I think all Wild fans want up right now, is going to have to be your third or fourth line center, or Koivu is going to have to be down there. And Rask would come out of the lineup, which seems easy, but I think Wild fans don't want Cunnin on the fourth line. They don't want Ek on the fourth line. So what Bruce is doing is keeping Cunnin at right wing. Well, by doing that, now that affects guys like Donato and Fiala. And it keeps Greenway on the left side. Again, same thing. You have Zucker, you have Foligno, and you have Parisi ahead of Greenway right now. So it's just not easy. One move changes everything, and then you get the people. If Bruce does what Brett Marshall wants, that affects four lines, and that now gets the people that hate Bruce changing the lines now all pissed off. So this is not an easy situation that Bruce is in right now with these lines. And this is just going to have to be it for tonight, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow. But you change one thing with this lineup, and four different things have to change. And I think that's what happens when you have a lineup that a lot of ways doesn't fit really well. There was one thing that I'm trying to find the tweet that somebody asked that I did want to just popped in my head. I'm sorry, just give me a second. You have a lot of questions today, dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
I found a couple questions. One that did jump in my head here is somebody asked, why have the Wild not found a pure goal scorer since Gaborik? And I do believe that the Wild have been in a cycle of just poor drafting. I mean, that still dates back a decade ago. And, just hear me out as I talk in a convoluted way, but it's a cycle that started in the mid 2000s where the Wild wasted. It's been a wasteland. I mean, the Wild wasted probably 5-6 first-round picks in a row. That affects you for a decade. So in 2004, they draft A.J. Thielen in the first round. In 2005, they draft Benoit Pouliot 4th overall. Carey Price went 5th. Kopitar, I think, went 11th. 2006,